Hello there. Today we're going to be talking about the greatest living Jedi ever, and that is Obi-Wan Kenobi. I'm going to make an argument as to why I believe Obi-Wan Kenobi is the greatest Jedi we've ever been blessed with. And let me say, thank God Disney cannot screw him over. Can you imagine what they would do to Obi-Wan in these sequel movies? Holy crap. Thank God he was completed, his arc was done before Disney and Kathleen Kennedy got a hold of him. There are good things in this world. Now, sure, before you get on me, yes, there are more powerful Jedi in the world. Yoda is much more powerful with the Force than Obi-Wan. Mace Windu is much better dueling with a lightsaber than Obi-Wan. Qui-Gon Jinn is probably wiser than Obi-Wan. But let's be real, nobody has gone through the hardships and stood the test of everything that could be thrown at him and exemplified the perfect Jedi gentleman than Obi-Wan Kenobi has. To me, a Jedi's greatness is not necessarily tied to the acts that they may do, but more to the way that they handle themselves through those acts. And if you just take a look at what Obi-Wan has endured throughout his whole life and throughout his story arc, it's pretty amazing that he has resisted the temptation of falling. The responsibility of being a Jedi is to resist the dark side and the temptation to fall to it and to maintain balance in the Force. And honestly, Obi-Wan Kenobi has done that in spades. Let's take a walk through some canon and see the events that have happened in Obi-Wan's life and times that he could have been tempted to go down a darker path. Okay, so for obvious starters, in The Phantom Menace, Obi-Wan Kenobi is a Padawan while he sees his master get murdered, Qui-Gon Jinn, by Darth Maul, and instead of losing his cool and falling to rage, he controls himself, defeats Darth Maul, and gives his word to Qui-Gon Jinn that he will train Anakin Skywalker. And that is a huge responsibility considering that he's only a Padawan, but he still gives his word to his dying master. Because he defeated Maul, the Jedi Council gives him the ranking of Jedi Master, and this is without even completing his trials. So he immediately goes from a Padawan learner to a Jedi Master who has his own Padawan who is supposedly the chosen one. That's a lot of responsibility. Then, later on in the Clone Wars animated show, we see Obi-Wan Kenobi's longtime love, Duchess Satine, get murdered in cold blood by Darth Maul, his nemesis that he thought was dead up to that point. So Obi-Wan at this point sees the person that he's loved his whole life and somebody he told he would leave the Jedi Order for if she had told him that she loved him or that she wanted him to, watches her get murdered, and instead of going into a rage and losing it and giving up, he persists and he remains balanced. During the Clone Wars, he becomes General Kenobi, and he's well renowned for his leadership abilities. His clones love him, and he's also well known for being the negotiator, or somebody who is able to negotiate peace between opposing forces, which is a great Jedi act if you actually look at it, defending the peace and not inciting violence, which the Jedi Code always talks about using the Force and using their powers for defensive measures instead of offensive ones. So during the Clone Wars, he's actually tempted by Count Dooku when Count Dooku tells him about a plot by the Sith to control the Senate and how the Senate are basically under the control of the Sith, and Dooku tries to persuade and recruit Obi-Wan to join his side and to take the Sith out. And this is important because Dooku has a lot of respect for Obi-Wan. Dooku had a lot of respect for Qui-Gon Jinn. Dooku used to be trained by Yoda and is an ex-Jedi himself, so trying to recruit Obi-Wan would have a lot of influence over Obi-Wan because of that connection that they have and because of how much respect Dooku has for Obi-Wan and for the respect that Obi-Wan might have had for Dooku at one point in their life. He's the Jedi who discovers the clones and discovers Geonosis and discovers the plot by the ex-Jedi Master Sifo Dyas and uncovers all that mystery with Jango Fett and all that stuff. Obi-Wan also was the Jedi who hunted down and defeated General Grievous, who up to that point had been galaxy known as the Jedi Killer. Then, right after he kills General Grievous, he survives Order 66, which was the plot all along by Emperor, or not Emperor at this point, by Palpatine to use the implants that were inside the clones to kill all the Jedi that they were serving. And this killed so many Jedi, so many powerful Jedi, Jedi that we had seen up to this point do amazing things. Obi-Wan Kenobi survived it just after defeating General Grievous, which altogether is pretty amazing in itself. Once Obi-Wan makes his way back to Coruscant with Master Yoda, he finds out the devastating news that his Padawan and best friend for the last 10 years betrayed the Jedi and essentially joined the Sith. And not only that, he watches him murder younglings, which is pretty intense. I mean, imagine seeing your best friend that you've known and loved and cherished and trusted for the last 10 years of your life. Watching a video of them murdering innocent children is pretty gut wrenching and pretty shocking to even the most stoic and powerful of people. It's gotta be pretty bad. And even through all that turmoil, knowing that he trained the guy who turned on the Jedi and murdered all these younglings and now serves the Sith Emperor, he manages to bottle all of his feelings and emotions up and all of his grief and all of the things running through his head and decides that he will go face Anakin himself. And he does it. Obi-Wan does it. Like everything else, he is incredible. He has the high ground, Anakin. You should have known. And he defeated Anakin at Anakin's most powerful point in his progression, because after that, I feel like he might get stronger as Darth Vader in some ways, but I think Darth Vader's force sensitivity weakened once he became a cyborg. I think at this point, Anakin Skywalker was at his strongest when he was dueling Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan used his famous defensive technique and defensive lightsaber style and just waited and waited and waited. Anakin made the mistake, Obi-Wan took advantage of it. And I think Obi-Wan had a hard time actually finishing Anakin off and killing him. I guess he figured that if he left him there, he would die. I guess he just couldn't pull himself to kill his best friend through everything. And I guess I can understand that. But to have just gone through all this stuff and learn all these new things and still keep your cool and take out one of the most powerful people you've ever faced is pretty incredible. After just defeating his Padawan and best friend for 10 years, now Obi-Wan has to decide what he's going to do with Padme's children and Anakin's children. And he decides to give them up for adoption, one to Bail Organa and his family in Alderaan, Leia, and the other to the Skywalker family in on Tatooine, which is Luke Skywalker. And from there, he decides to put himself in isolation and look over Luke. And for the next 15 or so years, 20 years, he watches over Luke. He takes care of the farm, make sure it's not disrupted by the Hutts or Sand People. And even in one comic, it's revealed that Obi-Wan encourages Luke to become a pilot by sending him little parts or giving him little inspiration here and there, and just kind of tries to be an outside observer, pushing him down the path that he might actually end up finding the Force for himself. Eventually, while on Tatooine, Darth Maul tracks him down, and even as an old man, Obi-Wan makes pretty quick work of him. I mean, I don't know why Darth Maul thought that he could take Obi-Wan after losing to him so many times, but Obi-Wan finally puts the nail in the coffin and ends his longtime rivalry with his nemesis, Darth Maul. Then, soon after that, the beginning of A New Hope starts, and Luke discovers Obi-Wan, and Obi-Wan encourages him, and with a little help from his uncle and Aunt Owen, Lars, getting fried alive, Luke decides to go on the journey with Obi-Wan, and on that journey, Obi-Wan trains Luke for as long as he can, teaches him about the Force, teaches him a little bit about the Jedi, and then eventually in the ultimate sign or showing of how amazing of a Jedi Obi-Wan Kenobi is. He sacrifices himself for Luke and for the rest of the team on the Millennium Falcon. And from there, further mentors Luke using his Force Ghost abilities, eventually telling Luke to find Yoda and to complete his training. So there's a lot that Obi-Wan has had, a lot of influence Obi-Wan has had on the actual Star Wars saga that we know of. So we see poor Obi-Wan lose his master, be forced into an early responsibility that he wasn't ready for in training the chosen one, Anakin Skywalker. He becomes a great general during the Clone Wars and has a great impact on the events of that. He watches the love of his life get murdered in cold blood by somebody that he thought was already dead. He then has to deal with his Padawan and best friend of 10 years betraying the Jedi and watches him murder kids. Then he goes and defeats them. It defeats Anakin. And then on top of all that, orchestrates the next generation or the new hope that will come along in time, Luke and Leia, and watches over them, and then eventually gives up the greatest sacrifice, his own life, for that cause and for that hope. Through all these terrible events that could have easily sent anybody off their rocker, he triumphs and he remains that perfect Jedi gentleman. He exemplifies the Jedi Code, he exemplifies resisting the dark side and maintaining balance. And to me, that just shows how amazing of a Jedi he actually was, and why I think he probably is the greatest Jedi ever to exist in canon. I mean, sure, like we've said, there's more powerful ones, there's ones that are better at fighting, there's ones who have maybe done greater deeds, but just thinking about all the things that Obi-Wan has overcame and has never fluttered or never changed along his path and has never questioned what he was taught or if what he was doing is the right thing. It's really quite amazing, and it's really a testament to his character as a whole compared to some of the other characters. I mean, Anakin, he loses his mom and he just starts murdering sand people. He has visions of losing Padme, so what does he do? He ends up killing Padme and joining the dark side. It's just a lot that has gone into Obi-Wan's journey. And I think he's kind of underappreciated when you think about all the things that he's gone through and has come out on top. And about his dueling skills, Obi-Wan is actually really badass with a lightsaber. The dude took on Anakin Skywalker, he defeated General Grievous, and he defeated Maul a few times. I mean, the dude has a nice list of Sith Lords that he's taken out. I think the popular opinion on who the greatest Jedi ever would have been Luke Skywalker or maybe Yoda, but after seeing The Last Jedi and knowing that tons of awesome things that Luke Skywalker did that are now considered legends and aren't canon are off the books, it's really hard to argue with Obi-Wan. I mean, Luke, yeah, he was incredible, and he ended up defeating the Emperor and changing Darth Vader back to the light side and not giving in to the temptation of ruling the galaxy with the Emperor. But still, after seeing what happened to him after that, it's really like it all went downhill from there. It's like you hear about people who peak in high school. Yeah, Luke peaked in the original trilogy, and it seems like it was all downhill from there. So to me, just the way that things are now with canon, Obi-Wan Kenobi is definitely the greatest Jedi we've ever seen. So guys, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about my argument. Let me know if I'm full of shit, or let me know if you agree. Let me know if there's things that I've missed about Obi-Wan's journey, and let me know if you think that I'm right or wrong. I want to hear what you guys have to think. So thanks again. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll be seeing you guys again sometime soon.